They say every parent wants the same thing, a place where their children can sleep through the night without fear. But for some parents, peace isn't a gift, it's a gamble. Angela Morris learned that the night her neighbor's stray bullet cut through the drywall of her tiny South Memphis apartment and buried itself in her kitchen counter, no one was hurt. But something in her spirit cracked. That night, she promised her son, Marcus, "We're leaving. We're going somewhere they can't find us, where peace doesn't cost us our lives." She worked overtime at the hospital, 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, scraping together enough for a deposit on a small rental in Ridgewood Heights, a suburb that looked like a photograph of the American dream. Trimmed lawns, pastel houses, laughter drifting from backyard barbecues. Angela told herself, this is what safety looks like. But she didn't yet know that safety, in America, wears more than one face. A T first. Ridgewood Heights felt like a new language. Morning joggers waved without slowing down. Mailboxes gleamed in perfect rows. Marcus rode his bike through quiet streets, sketchbook tucked under his arm, drawing everything, the symmetry of fences, the slant of sunlight on a cul-de-sac. He told his mother, "It's so quiet, Mom, like the world forgot to breathe." She smiled, hiding the unease she felt when car doors clicked locked as they walked past. The neighbors weren't cruel, just cautious. Their smiles stretched thin, polite as policy. Every welcome to the neighborhood felt like a question mark. Weeks passed. The calm began to fray. One afternoon, Angela saw a police cruiser idling at the corner, same spot, same time, every day. She told herself it was a coincidence. But when Marcus walked home from the bus stop, the cruiser rolled beside him, matching his pace. "Hey there, son. You live around here?" "Yes, sir. On Maple Lane." "That so? Haven't seen you before." Marcus pointed toward his house, the white one with the small porch swing. The officer's eyes lingered too long before he nodded and drove away. That night, Marcus asked, "Did we do something wrong by moving here?" Angela froze. The question she'd been avoiding had found its way to her kitchen table. She brushed his hair back and whispered, "No, baby. We just have to remind them we belong." The days grew heavier with small humiliations. A cashier double-checked Angela's $20 bill under a light. A neighbor's dog barked only when Marcus passed. One morning, a flyer appeared on their windshield, "Neighborhood Watch, keeping Ridgewood safe." Below the slogan was a blurry photo of Marcus walking home. Angela's hands trembled as she crumpled it. Safety, it seemed, had fine print. Marcus tried to ignore it. He buried himself in art, sketching late into the night, faces without names, streets without color. His drawings turned darker, sharper. He stopped bringing friends from school to the house. One evening, Angela knocked on his door. He was staring at a half-finished piece. Two houses side by side, one lit in gold, the other under flashing red and blue lights. Across the bottom, he'd written, "Same boy, different block." Angela sat beside him. "Marcus, you can draw something brighter." He shook his head. "I will, when it looks brighter." In Ridgewood Heights, Angela learned a cruel equation. The smaller the crime rate, the greater the suspicion when a black family arrives. Every kind smile carried a caution she couldn't name. Still, she told herself to endure, to stay invisible, because moving again wasn't an option. Peace was expensive, and she was still paying it off. By spring, the pressure started to show. At school, Marcus sat alone in the cafeteria. His teacher noticed the change. "He's talented," she told Angela, "but distant. Maybe he needs a creative outlet." Angela nodded, guilt creeping up her throat. She'd wanted this new life to heal him. Instead, it was shrinking him. That night, she wrote in her journal, "Maybe peace isn't silence. Maybe it's being heard." A few days later, Ridgewood Heights held its annual community meeting, an event of lemonade, folded chairs, and polite avoidance. Angela went, hoping to meet parents, to show them she was part of the fabric here. When the topic turned to neighborhood security, a man in a polo shirt stood. "There have been reports of unfamiliar activity around Maple Lane," he said. Eyes flicked toward Angela. She cleared her throat. "My son walks home from the bus on that street." Someone whispered, "Oh." Silence followed, dense, suffocating. She wanted to shout, "We pay rent here too." But instead she said, "We all want the same thing, safety." A woman murmured, "Of course," with a smile that felt like a door closing. Every generation has a mother like Angela, woman trying to outrun a map that was never drawn for her. We talk about opportunity, but we rarely speak about geography, how a 5-digit number can dictate a child's worth before they ever open their mouth. If you're watching this and you think zip codes are just mail routes, look closer. They're fault lines. They decide who the police protect and who they patrol. If stories like Angela's sound familiar, don't scroll past them. Share them. Speak them. Because silence never saved anyone. Summer arrived early that year, heat curling off the asphalt, the air heavy with thunderstorms. Angela picked up extra shifts, leaving Marcus to manage his long afternoons alone. He filled them with sketches at the park, earbuds in, trying to forget how small he felt. But in Ridgewood Heights, invisibility had limits. One humid Friday, as twilight spread across the sky, a text buzzed Angela's phone during her shift. "Mom, can I walk to Ridgemart? Need pencils?" She texted back a quick, "Sure. Be careful. Love you." It was the last message she sent before the world tilted. Marcus took the shortcut behind the shopping plaza, a narrow path lined with hedges and motion lights. He'd walked it a dozen times before. Music pulsed softly in his headphones. Sketchbook tucked under his arm, seat, money folded in his pocket. A car slowed behind him. He didn't notice. Inside, 2 residents were calling the police about a suspicious mail. Dispatch log, 7:42 p.m. Possible prowler near Ridgemart. Dark clothing, backpack. Marcus wore a gray hoodie. His backpack held pencils. Angela clocked out early. Rain starting to fall. Thunder distant. She smiled, thinking of dinner waiting at home, until blue lights flashed across the intersection ahead. Traffic slowed. Police tape glimmered under the street lamps. She felt it before she saw it. An instinct older than language. She parked on the curb, heart hammering. "Ma'am, please step back," an officer said. Angela's voice cracked. "My son, Marcus Morris, he was coming this way." The officer's eyes flickered, and he hesitated. That half-second told her everything. The human body can hold its breath for 40 seconds. A mother can stretch time into eternity. Angela called his name again and again, until an EMT turned toward her, face unreadable, and said softly, "He's alive." Her knees buckled with relief. But relief has a cruel twin rage, because survival shouldn't feel like victory. Not when innocence is mistaken for threat. The evening, the air changed and Ridgewood Heights started like any other, blue shadows stretching over manicured lawns. The hum of sprinklers keeping rhythm with the restless sky. Marcus had spent the day tutoring at the community center, his earbuds humming lo-fi beats as he walked home. The streets were so quiet he could hear his own thoughts echoing back. He'd been thinking about what his mother once said, "Peace isn't always the absence of noise, Marcus. Sometimes it's the silence people use to hide what they don't want to face." He thought she meant gossip or grief. He didn't realize she was talking about the kind of silence that could swallow a person whole. At the corner of Birch and Maple, a streetlight flickered. He noticed a patrol car parked halfway down, idling. It wasn't unusual, not here, where the local watch prided itself on order. Still, something about the pause between his steps and the engine's growl made his stomach tighten. He tugged his hoodie's zipper higher and kept walking. Inside their home, Angela was setting the table for 2, humming gospel under her breath. She had texted him an hour earlier, "Dinner's ready, baby. Fried plantain, the way you like it." When he didn't answer, she brushed it off. He was 21 now, finding his rhythm, learning independence. But mothers know. The smallest silence can sound like thunder. Out on Birch Street, the hum of the patrol engine grew louder. Marcus's phone buzzed in his hand. He looked down, distracted, and that's when the voice cut through the night, sharp, commanding, demanding. "We won't replay the details. The story has been told too many times in too many towns." The glare of lights, the questions that weren't really questions, the instant shift from curiosity to threat, and then silence again. Angela remembered the knock before dawn. Not the loud, desperate pounding of tragedy, but the polite, procedural tap of something official. She opened the door to officers with rehearsed expressions, gentle, almost bored. "Ma'am, your son was involved in an incident." The words blurred. Involved. Stable. Hospital. The kind of phrases designed to sound merciful, but land like bricks. At the hospital, she saw Marcus lying beneath a tangle of wires and soft beeping light. His chest rose and fell, thank God, but his eyes told the story. His lips couldn't. The fear, the disbelief. The new, invisible line was carved between him and the world. Angela gripped his hand and whispered, "You're home, baby. You're home." But she knew they'd never truly be home again. For weeks, Ridgewood Heights carried on as if nothing had happened. Surfaced. The narrative had already been written without them. A misunderstanding. A routine check. Marcus barely spoke. When he did, his voice cracked with something deeper than anger, a tiredness that felt ancient. "They looked at me like I didn't belong," he murmured once, staring out the window. "Like I was some mistake that walked into their picture." Angela wanted to tell him it would pass, that they'd prove themselves again, but she couldn't bring herself to repeat the lie. Because deep down, she knew what the town's peace was built on: someone else's silence. If you're listening to this, ask yourself, how many times have you mistaken quiet for justice? How many neighborhoods where safety like a mask while fear festers underneath? Don't scroll past. Don't whisper sympathy and move on. Speak names. Ask questions. Hold power to its word. Because peace that requires pain is not peace, it's performance. As the days stretched into months, Marcus tried to return to routine. He still volunteered, still smiled when people greeted him, though the smiles felt heavier now, more practiced. Sometimes he'd walk past the corner of Birch and Maple just to prove he could, but every sound, an engine starting, a sudden shout, sent a tremor through him. Angela saw it all. She saw the way his shoulders stayed tense, how his laughter had edges. Now, and she saw her own reflection in that fear, a mother wondering whether the dream she'd chased had betrayed her son. One evening, she sat across from Marcus at the dinner table. The same meal she'd made the night it happened. The same quiet. "I used to think moving here would keep you safe," she said softly. Marcus looked up, eyes steady. "You did keep me safe, Mom. You gave me a chance to see what I was up against." It wasn't bitterness in his voice, it was clarity. The kind that comes when innocence finally gives way to truth. Word spread slowly about the incident. A journalist reached out. A petition circulated online. Some neighbors signed. Others avoided the topic, afraid of choosing sides. Ridgewood Heights prided itself on being neutral, as if neutrality were a virtue, not convenience. Angela attended a town hall meeting where they discussed community cohesion. The moderator smiled too much. The questions were filtered. She raised her hand anyway. "My son nearly lost his life," she said. "Not because he did anything wrong, but because peace here has conditions. Because safety has an address." The room fell silent. For a moment, no one moved. Then came the deflections, the sympathetic nods, the polite applause that ends discomfort without changing anything. Still, a few people stayed after to listen. One woman whispered, "I never thought about it that way." Another asked, "What can we do?" And for the first time since the hospital, Angela felt something close to hope. Fragile, flickering, but alive. Marcus began writing again. Poems, journal entries, reflections. Lines like, "I am not your threat. I am your mirror." He spoke at schools, small gatherings, sharing his story not to reopen wounds, but to show the world what survival sounds like. He told the truth quietly, but it carried. Because truth, once spoken, has its own momentum. Months later, on a cool spring morning, Angela stood on their porch watching the sunrise over Ridgewood Heights. The light painted everything gold, the same color as the hope she refused to let die. Marcus joined her, leaning on the railing, his eyes tracing the horizon. "Mom," he said, "you ever think peace might be something we have to build ourselves?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe that's the only kind that lasts. If this story stirs something in you, don't let it fade when the screen goes dark. Remember that peace built on privilege isn't peace, it's permission. Remember that safety shouldn't have a price tag or a postal code. And remember, Marcus, Angela, and every family who dared to believe a better neighborhood meant a fairer world, because the price of peace should never be paid in silence. Until justice no longer checks your address before it knocks on your door, we keep speaking, keep showing up, and keep demanding a peace that belongs to all of us.